Hi there, I am Julie Grahame, publisher, curator, editor, etc., etc. I've been in the photography industry for a few years now. Very happy to have been invited to interview Hector Rene by Stephanie for We Are Indivisual. I'm calling from London, England, and it's a pleasure to be here. So, Hector, I first saw your work when you entered the competition for the Centre for Photography at Woodstock.
Correct,
I think
yeah.
it was late last year, about a year ago, yeah?
Yeah.
It's our anniversary. And I really wanted to include one of the images from the Hegemony series, the image of the man sitting behind the still life with his jacket open and his fantastic bare legs. And I'm still sorry I couldn't make it work, actually. It's a monumental image, and everybody that I've shown it to has really reacted to it strongly. I was obviously very happy we could pull off the exhibition at Photoville, and I think that was a really good example of literally showing those guys that one image, and within an hour they really wanted to show the work. So that really speaks to what you are doing, I feel. So I think we should just vaguely go over your timeline. You moved to the United States from Honduras. You were a kid.
Right, yeah. So in 1992, my mother decided to leave Honduras, for prospects of a better education, better government system, just, the land of milk and honey. So when I came to the United States in 92, I didn't speak any English, I was still really young. And quickly my mom threw me into the public school system, and I began making a new American identity. And by the time I had graduated, it was my senior year, and I had recently become an American citizen. And it put me in a position to really question or consider, investigate what that newfound identity was. Because as far as I saw it, I didn't feel any more American the day after I became a citizen than I did the day before. So that really is what sparked my interest. And photography came a little later, just through my deployment. So before I get too deep into that, after high school, I decided to enlist in the U.S. Army. Because, I came from a military family, and also it just seemed like a good fit for this interpersonal investigation into my own patriotism. So joining the military really knocked out a couple things for me. It gave me the ability to earn my keep in this country, because I had felt like Hispanics, at least where I come from, when I first moved to Allentown, Pennsylvania in 1992, we were approximately 15% Hispanic community. But now, since the 2010 census, it's been 4 years since then, but we're up to almost 60% Hispanics. So this in the past 20 years, the time that I spent in Allentown was a very transformative time for the city. It was post-industrial, post-World War II. Bethlehem Steel employed most of these people. So once you start shutting down the industry, it ends up becoming a bit like Detroit, where the steel manufacturer left. A lot of these people with wages are forced to early retirement. And most of these demographics then move out to the suburbs as it becomes more affordable living. It's a bedroom city to Philadelphia and New York. So a lot of the minorities who were looking to, maybe earn a better living, own property, they moved out to Pennsylvania. So I watched this town become more Hispanic, more Latino over the years. And joining the military was a good way for me to feel like I'm going to earn my place in my town, in my community, and just it also gave me the means to go to college, which are things that I wasn't really considering at the time.
So you weren't already making any photography before you signed up?
Correct. I was not making any photography. And then Go ahead.
Well, so yeah, I'd like to understand obviously the transition between not being a photographer to being a photographer. A lot of the work on your website is obviously military related,
Right.
and you're not that old, so a lot of this must have happened in quite a short order.
It's absolutely right. So here I was. I joined the Army, and then a year later they say, we're deploying you to Iraq. And I was just 20 years old. I couldn't even buy a beer, and I had a million thoughts in my head. And the first thing I decided to do was to buy a camera because this sounds really terrible, but if I was going to travel anywhere for leisure, I would bring a camera. Well, this wasn't for leisure, but I still wanted to document my experiences. So buying a camera seemed like the appropriate tool to record my experiences. And at the time, it was just for personal keepsake, which I think is how most people come into photography, is that they want to keep these precious moments of their lives, but it becomes an addiction, an obsession, which is what it happened to me. I carried this camera around everywhere I took my rifle, which means to work, on a mission, in a truck, to the chopper.
And there was no issues with you doing so?
And that's a tricky question, because I don't think I was ever documenting anything that would put my colleagues in a precarious situation. The thing about the military is that they're very concerned with operational security. So as long as you're aware of that, sensitive to that, you're not posting pictures that could end up getting your buddy in a jam. Well, then, they're pretty lenient about it, So what I was doing was mostly taking pictures of my surroundings, of the people I worked with, of, sandstorms. It was never my job to go looking for bad guys and kicking down doors. So my pictures weren't the type of pictures you would often see in the New York Times or Time magazine. They weren't so photo J. They were more, they're more intimate, intimate moments of me in my, surroundings with my friends or my battle buddies. I hope that answers that.
So the timeline goes, you left service in what year?
I came home from Iraq in 2010.
2010, and then it looks like you took a certificate in journalism.
I did, but that came a little later. So what happened was when I was getting ready, when I was packing up to come home from Iraq, I was really interested in studying photography because I had just spent the last year photographing obsessively.
And what were you photographing with? What were you using?
I was using an entry-level DSLR. It was a Nikon D60. It was a very consumer-based model camera. And by the time I was getting ready to come home, I realized that the camera was limited to the things I wanted to start doing. I wanted to start printing. I wanted more control. I wanted better lenses, certain effects. And, that required more advanced training, more advanced equipment, things I didn't have. But what I did have was the GI Bill, which was, life-changing for me. The GI Bill, for anybody who doesn't know the specifics, it allows returning military service members to attend college. It gives you a stipend and it pays for tuition. So it's designed very similar to most fellowships, which is it gives me the ability to only worry about getting good marks in school. For the time that you are in class, they send you a stipend to cover incidentals, food, room, board. So that in and of itself freed me from the rigors of college experience, which is working many part-times to make ends meet so that you can eat ramen to get through the next final. So because I didn't have to do that, I seized the opportunity of getting my only paying job being a good student. So I focused on my coursework. I loaded up on a lot of art history classes. And then I pursued internship after internship because what I quickly realized was that most internships are an exchange of unskilled labor for knowledge.
Mm-hmm.
And I was unskilled. So I pursued many internships, the first fruitful one being with Stephen Mallon, who had just recently stepped down as the president of the American Society of Media Photographers New York chapter. And I spent a very long time with him and really understanding what photography looks like when you're not taking pictures. And that is dealing with your agent, dealing with editors, pitching stories, reviewing, producing, all the other things, because photography is more than photographs. At least the industry and the community is. And shortly after that, I started assisting and TAing for some of my studio teachers at SVA. And before you knew it, I had Catherine Chermayeff at SVA. She had suggested I apply for this internship at Magnum. And she put in, she submitted my application for me. And then, after Stephen Mallon, I started interning at Magnum Foundation under Emma Raines and Susan Meiselas. And that was another incredible experience. Now I got to experience what the nonprofit sector of photography looks like, and I realized that everybody at every level needs financial support. It doesn't matter at what point in your career you are. The arts is ultimately a luxury. And we need the support of interested, invested patrons to pursue our work. And that was, a huge lesson I learned through Magnum Foundation.